The garrison had been built to last. That was the first thing you noticed. Not its size, not its height, not the on-docked banners hanging black and silver from the gatehouse towers. The first thing you noticed was the intention behind it. The way the stone had been cut and fitted spoke of permanence, of something meant to outlast the people who built it and the reasons they gave for building it. Alana and Tom lay on their stomachs on the ridge above the valley and studied it in the thin gray light of the afternoon, 2 days before Samhain now, the air carrying the first real edge of winter, the kind of cold that meant business. Below them, in the courtyard, 8 soldiers moved in the unhurried patterns of men performing their usual duties, which meant that Davin had not yet mobilized a full search. Either the message to the fortress had not yet produced a response, or Davin was waiting for something before he acted. Neither possibility was comforting.
The third stone is beneath the east cellar. I reviewed the foundation plans when the garrison was built. Davin insisted on deep foundations on the east side. I thought it was about the water table.
And now?
Now, I think he wanted to make sure nothing could reach it from below.
She studied the garrison's east wall, one narrow window at ground level, a cellar ventilation opening, barely wide enough for a person. Barely.
There's a delivery entrance on the north side. I know the garrison schedule. The evening supply cart arrives at the 4th hour afternoon. In the confusion of unloading, I can walk through the main gate. I know every face there. They will not question me immediately.
And when they do?
By then, you'll have reached the stone.
She looked at him. He looked back at her with the specific expression of a man who has made a decision he knows is dangerous and is asking her, without words, to trust it. She looked back at the east wall, at the narrow window, at the stone somewhere beneath it that had been waiting for 300 years. "All right," she said, "but if anything goes wrong..."
Nothing will go wrong.
"Tom..."
If anything goes wrong, leave without me. Find another way to the third stone. The binding matters more than either of us.
She wanted to argue. She recognized with the cold clarity that had kept her alive for 14 years that he was right. She said nothing, which she suspected he understood as the agreement it was. She went over the east wall at the 3rd hour after noon, when the sun was at its lowest angle and the shadows were longest, and the 2 soldiers on the east parapet were looking toward the main gate where the supply cart had just been announced. The rowan sprig stayed in her sleeve. The mark on her wrist stayed quiet, or as quiet as it ever was anymore, which was a low, constant awareness, like a fire banked but not extinguished. She moved the way her grandmother had taught her to move in places she wasn't supposed to be, slowly, deliberately, as though she had every right to be there and was simply in no hurry. Confidence, her grandmother had said, was the best invisibility a woman could wear. The world was so accustomed to women being uncertain that a woman who was not became somehow difficult to see. She reached the cellar door. It was locked with an iron bar and a chain, heavy, deliberate, the kind of locked that said this was not an oversight, but a choice. Someone had decided this door should not be easily opened. She studied the chain for a moment. Then she pressed her marked wrist against the iron bar and waited. The iron was cold under her wrist, and then, slowly, the way warmth spreads through frozen ground in the first days of spring, the mark responded, not with light this time, with something quieter, a recognition, a remembering, a very old understanding between the woman and the metal, that the metal had been made from earth, and the earth remembered its obligations. The chain fell open. Quietly. She was underground before the sound of it finished echoing. The cellar was not what she had expected. She had expected stone, cold storage perhaps, or weapons, or the kind of ordered military supply that garrison cellars typically contained. What she found was roots. They came through the east wall from below the foundation, massive, ancient root systems that had no business being this intact beneath 3 years of stone construction that should by all rights have been cut and cleared when the foundations were laid. They covered the floor, rose up the walls, pressed against the ceiling in places with a patient, inexorable force that suggested they had been here long before the garrison and intended to be here long after. And they were glowing. Not brightly, not the cold silver of the standing stone or the gold of her mark, something warmer, amber and deep green, the color of sunlight through oak leaves in late summer, the color of something that had been alive and growing for so long that life itself had become a kind of light. The third stone was not beneath the roots. The third stone had become the roots. 300 years of an ancient oak pressing itself against and around and through a standing stone until the two were no longer distinguishable. The stone's spiral carvings grown over with bark in some places, exposed in others, the root system carrying the mark's frequency through every fiber of the tree above, the whole organism a single vast antenna for something that had been trying to maintain signal through 3 centuries of interference. She walked to the center of the root system and knelt. She pressed both hands, marked wrist and unmarked, flat against the largest root and closed her eyes. The oak showed her something, not in words, in the way trees remember, in image and sensation, and the specific weight of accumulated time. She saw the original binding ceremony as the oak had witnessed it from above. 2 figures at the base of a young tree that would not be ancient for another 200 years, their marks glowing in the dark, a third figure watching, taller, darker, present in the way a storm is present before it breaks. She saw the ancestor who had stood where she was standing now, a woman with her same hands, her same jaw, different eyes perhaps, brown where Alana's were dark, steadier perhaps with less to hide. The ancestor looked up through 300 years of oak memory and looked directly at her. And the oak gave her something the ancestor had left in its keeping, her true name. Not the name her mother had given her, not Alana, Little Rock, Endure, something older, something that existed in the language before names were shortened into the shapes ordinary mouths could manage. The full version, the one that contained not just who she was, but what she was, what she had always been, what 14 years of hiding had compressed but not extinguished. Her grandmother had told her once that a witch without her true name was like a fire without a hearth, present, real, genuinely dangerous, but without the structure to become what it was capable of being. She understood that now. The name moved through her like the river's voice had moved through her, not entering from outside, but rising from within, from somewhere that had been holding it in custody since she was 9 years old and watching her grandmother burn and learning that some things had to be hidden or they would be taken. She had hidden it so well, she had almost hidden it from herself. Almost. The light came quietly. Not an explosion, not the dramatic, violent surge that stories about power awakening described. The sudden brilliance, the shock of it, the world transformed in an instant. Nothing like that. It came the way breathing comes after you have been holding your breath for a very long time and have finally simply allowed yourself to stop. Warm gold, rising from her hands where they pressed against the oak root, spreading up her arms slowly, following the lines of her veins as though it had always known the way and had only been waiting for permission to travel them. The mark on her wrist blazed, not painfully, with the specific intensity of something returning to its natural state after long compression, the way a deep breath feels after shallow ones. Her roots around her responded. The amber-green light within them brightened, harmonized, the oak's frequency and her own settling into the same register, the way two voices find a chord, not competing, not overwhelming each other, simply becoming something that neither was alone. She heard the stone within the roots, not the stone's voice, the stone's memory, centuries of it, layer upon layer, every person who had ever pressed a marked hand against it, every generation of the binding maintained and renewed and carried forward by people who understood what they were carrying. She had spent 14 years making herself small. She was done with that. She was on her feet, with the gold light still moving under her skin when the cellar door opened behind her. She turned. It was not Tom. The man who stood in the doorway was lean and precise and entirely unsurprised by what he was looking at, which told her everything she needed to know about how long he had been anticipating this moment. He held a lamp in one hand and the expression of someone who has spent years preparing for a specific conversation and is now, finally, having it. This was Davin. She had known it before he spoke. The scholar's hands, ink-stained at the fingers, the cold intelligence in the eyes that was not Tom's intelligence. Tom's was direct, honest even when inconvenient, turned as readily on himself as on others. This was the intelligence of a man who had decided very early that information was the only currency that mattered, and had spent his entire career accumulating it at everyone else's expense. He told her, with the pleasant courtesy of a man who sees no reason to be impolite about something he has already decided, that she had done exactly what he had hoped she would do, that he had been waiting for 3 years for a marked one to come to the stone, that the garrison had been built not to contain the stone, but to contain whoever came for it, and to make use of what they brought with them. He held up a shard of dark stone. She recognized it immediately. A fragment of a standing stone, not this one of the ones that had been destroyed. She could feel the wrongness of it from across the cellar, the specific frequency of something that had been broken and was being used in ways it was never meant to be used. He had built the garrison, he explained with calm academic pleasure, not just over the third stone, but as a conduit. The foundations designed to channel the stone's energy not into the veil where it belonged, but into the shard, into him, into a collection of broken stones that he had been slowly, carefully, systematically empowering for 3 years while the veil weakened around them all. He didn't want to restore the veil. He wanted what was on the other side of it. He raised the shard. Alana raised her hand. The gold light that had been moving quietly under her skin for the last 10 minutes was no longer quiet. She had her true name now. She had the oak's memory and the river's voice, and 14 years of compressed, hidden, patient power that had been waiting for exactly this. Not a target, not an enemy, but a reason, a thing that needed to be stopped by someone who could stop it. The light left her hand and met the shard. The shard did not survive the meeting. Davin stepped back. For the first time, the pleasant courtesy left his face and something raw replaced it. Not fear exactly, the specific expression of a man whose calculations have just been revised by a factor he had not included. She told him in the language her grandmother had taught her and she had never used in 14 years that he should leave. He left. The cellar was quiet around her. The roots glowed, the stone within them hummed. She stood in the center of it and breathed. Tom found her 2 minutes later, coming through the cellar door at speed, with a cut on his forearm that he was not paying any attention to. He stopped when he saw her. She was standing in the center of the root system, with the gold light still fading slowly from her hands. the mark on her wrist the brightest it had ever been, the roots around her humming at a frequency that was audible now, low and resonant and deeply, unmistakably alive. He looked at her for a long moment.
There you are.
Not, "Are you all right?" Not, "What happened?" Not, "I was worried." There you are, as though he had been looking for this version of her for some time and was simply quietly glad to have found her. She felt something move in her chest that she chose not to examine too closely in a garrison cellar with 1 day left until Samhain. "Davin was here," she said. "He's gone now. But Tom, the veil. The 3 stones are restored, but the veil is still tearing. I could feel it through the oak. The stones were never going to be enough alone."
What do you mean?
She looked at the roots, at the stone within them, at the light that was still moving through the ancient wood. Before he left, Davin said something. He said the stones were only the anchors, the frame, that the binding text he had read, the original text, described a 3rd requirement that the Morrigan had never told anyone, something that had to happen in addition to the 3 stones being restored. A silence.
What 3rd requirement?
She looked at him. Davin said the veil has to be rewoven from inside the liminal threshold. Someone with the mark has to enter the space between worlds and repair it from within.
And the other marked one?
Holds the threshold open from this side, keeps the door from closing, for as long as it takes. Tom was very still.
How long does it take?
She thought of the river's voice, of the word it had offered and then retreated from, of the way she had turned it over in her mind and not let herself look directly at it. "I don't know," she said. Davin said that was the part of the original text he hadn't yet been able to translate. She didn't say, "I think he was lying." She didn't say, "I think he translated it perfectly and chose not to tell us." She didn't say, "I think the word the river wouldn't finish saying and the word Davin is withholding are the same word." She said, "We need to go. The garrison will have heard what happened in here, and Davin is somewhere in this building recalculating."
Agreed.
He held out his hand, not to take hers, to help her over the largest route between her and the door. She took it. They were out of the garrison cellar and over the garrison wall and into the forest before the first alarm bell rang behind them. Above the garrison, rising from the tower where Davin had his study, a single window glowed with lamplight. He was already writing. End of episode 3. Next, the threshold, the space between worlds, and the 6 hours Tom Ardak spent holding a door open with nothing but his mark and the part of himself the Ondoct had spent 10 years trying to remove.